Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. My name is Juan Londoño. I'm really happy to be here today. We have a really cool topic. We're going to talk about imposter syndrome. What is it? What does it mean for a photographer to get it? How it actually can affect us in other parts of life? And do we have it or not? So before we get into this, right, I like to make sure I know what I'm talking about, and you're going to want to do the same thing. So what is imposter syndrome? I have the definition here. So definition, imposter syndrome is a psychological phenomenon characterized by persistent feelings of inadequacy, self-doubt, and a fear of being exposed as a fraud, despite evidence of one's accomplishments. So here's the interesting thing I just learned. It seems like imposter syndrome is not that you're copying someone, but more that you think you're copying someone, even though you're actually quite good. Now, the whole thing about copying other photographers or photographers copying us, that's like a whole topic for another video. It's actually quite interesting. There's good and bad to that. But I want to make the distinction that this is not what we're going to cover here. Here, we're talking strictly of our feelings of inadequacy that lead us to have or not have imposter syndrome. So we have the definition now, right? We know what imposter syndrome is. Really, it's feelings of inadequacy that make us feel like we're not enough and we're copying people and our work isn't authentic, right? So what brings imposter syndrome on, right? What makes it happen inside of us? Obviously, we could focus on 9 to 5, whatever you do that's outside of photography, if you have another job. We can focus on relationships. It affects so many things. And we'll briefly touch on some of these, but this is a photography channel, so we're going to focus on photography for now. One of the things that we all can probably agree on is that there are more photographers than ever, right? Everybody's into photography, it seems. And what does that mean? Well, we all have phones, right? I just got a new one. This is really nice. And so we take pictures with our phones. And let me tell you something. I did a little test on that phone. I should even do a video. I did a test on that phone on a picture. I blown away by what it did. This is the Samsung S25, the Galaxy. Unbelievable. But that's, like I said, that's another topic. So people are using these things to take pictures. Now, can I actually enlarge a picture that I took with that? Probably not. It's not going to be that great. But can I take everyday pictures to post on Instagram and social media? Absolutely. So everybody seems like they're doing photography, right? Everybody's a photographer these days. If that's not enough, the used camera market is up. Companies like MPB and KEH, I get so much stuff from KEH, and I've gotten so much stuff. They're used equipment just like MPB. They are M as in Mary, P as in Peter, B as in boy. These companies supply such good equipment, they rate it really conservatively. So when something is excellent and you get it, it looks brand new. Like I've gotten things from them in excellent condition where I look at it and I go, has this even been used? So phenomenal for a fraction of the price. So that means more people are doing photography with better equipment, with better lenses, and oh my gosh, more competition for me. And of course, there's film. I still shoot film. I love film. It's nostalgic. It slows me down a little sometimes. It makes me think a little more. I walk out with a roll of 24 and that's all I have is 24 pictures, right? So I make them last. I savor each picture. I come home and I say, well, let's see what we got. So with those three things, the phones, the used camera market, and film, oh my gosh, we have more photographers than we need. Or do we? What it does for sure, it forces us to question our abilities and our place within this market, right? This artistic market. Now, before we move on, Paco de Lucia, a famous guitar player from Spain, flamenco guitarist, passed away a few years back. I had the honor of seeing him twice, once in New York and once in Savannah, Georgia. He was asked in an interview, is playing the guitar difficult? And he said, actually, playing the guitar is very easy. Mastering the guitar is very difficult, right? So there's the difference. Anybody can play the guitar, right? And many people do. I have guitars upstairs. and I putz around on the guitar. Do I play the guitar? That's a whole nother question, right? So when you master something, it requires more knowledge, more time, right? More patience, more skill. So the same thing with photography, right? We just talked about those three things, but I want you to keep in mind, in the back of your mind as we move through this conversation, anybody can pick up a camera, anybody can take a picture, but mastering photography is a whole different equation here, right? And photography is very much like guitar playing, like many instruments, right? It's not like sculpting. Like sculpting, you can't fake that, right? I mean, you give me some clay and I'm not going to know what to do with it. You give me a brush and a canvas, I'm not going to know what to do with it, right? You can't fake those. Photography, you can fake. Just like guitar playing, you learn 2 or 3 chords and you strum a couple of melodies and somebody hears you for the first time and go, ooh, that's pretty good. Well, that's all you know, right? So they don't know how little you know. Same with photography. You buy a decent camera, you buy a decent lens, you go out and you take a couple of shots, even in automatic. If you have a decent eye, people are going to go, wow, he's pretty good, right? Or she's pretty good. Not knowing that you have an amazing amount of limitations because you never really learned it. So I want to make that distinction because you and I are probably good enough because you're watching this with curiosity, and very few people are actually terrible, right? But we walk around with this feeling of inadequacy because we feel like there's so much good work out there and we're kind of an imposter. So that's not the case, but this is how we feel. I mentioned quickly, right? Is there a need for so many photographers, right? We have so many already, the market's inundated. And it's not so much about the need, right? That word need, I think, is preventing people from getting into the market and getting into professional photography. Because put it this way, I'm new, let's say I'm new to photography and I come along and I buy myself a camera and I'm interested and I take a class, right? I take a class with Juan and they come here in my dining room and we do a 12-week class, right? Face to face, and they walk away. And you start seeing pictures on Instagram and Facebook and all the social media, TikTok. And then you wonder, oh my gosh, there's so much good photography out there. Do you really need another photography? Does the world need another photographer? I mean, it's not about need. It's not. If it was about need, we'd all be getting into photography because we were hoping to make money, right? There isn't a need for any more photographers. I think we have enough. It's about a few things, and I wrote a couple down. One is outlet/hobby. So when I am sometimes fed up with whatever, with the physical life that I lead here, right? I want to just retire to some place for a day or half a day. I take my camera, I go to the gardens, I go to a city, I go wherever, just away from people, right? And those 2 or 3 hours that I dedicate, say in the gardens, looking at a pond and frogs and little snakes and lizards and squirrels and trees and flowers, I don't even know where I am at that point. For 2 or 3 hours, I'm taking pictures. It's my camera and I don't know anything about anyone. Top it off, there's no reception where I go, right? So I can't even get a phone call. So I'm out taking pictures of flowers and I can't even make a call. I can't send a picture with my phone. Total heaven for me, right? So there's that part of it. It's an outlet/hobby because, you know, some people maybe don't take that outlet part as serious because maybe they don't need an outlet. Maybe they're happy always surrounded by people. But then there's the hobby side, right? You want to sit down, you want to do something. It's cool. So forget about the need in terms of, you know, does the world need another photographer? Well, if it's for my outlet and it's for my hobby, yes, I need photography. It's not that the world needs me, I need photography. Keep that in mind. Creativity. I have a need to be creative. I do. You know, I don't know that everybody's like that. If you're sitting here watching this, you probably do too. And that means that I have to, you know, I can't draw and I can't paint. I never learned. I could play a little bit of guitar and I learned to play the cello, but I don't own one. So the easiest thing for me to do to satisfy that urge of creativity, I'm not saying it's easy, it's the easiest thing for me to do, is to pick up a camera and go create, right? I love that side of it and I love to have that opportunity. And then there's personal satisfaction. Forget all of this. Forget the creativity, the outlet. It just makes me happy. Picking up a camera that I enjoy and going out shooting makes me happy. Sometimes I just want to pick up a camera and go shooting because I want to hold the camera and play with the settings and shoot. Some of the bigger DSLRs and the new mirrorless cameras don't do anything for me. They don't. They're ugly. They're blocks of plastic and metal that do nothing for me. So I'm not talking about those, but the beautiful cameras that are being made right now by Nikon's got a beautiful one, right? I think it's at the FC. Any basically Fuji camera, right? Because that's what they mimic, film cameras. And then of course some of the medium format cameras like Hasselblad and the Fuji GFX system, some of the Olympus models. There are some really, really nice, beautiful retro cameras out there that shoot amazing digital specs, and you can shoot film as well, right? So for that personal satisfaction, I love it, and I really do need it. But here's the catch. We can't feel satisfied inside if we're feeling all the time like we're copying somebody. You see where this is going, right? If I have feelings of inadequacy because I always feel like I'm copying somebody and I'm not good enough, and because I'm not good enough, I'm copying somebody, yeah, I mean, there's no satisfaction there, right? So even if I'm half good and I'm cranking out some pretty pictures, I'm always going to be comparing it to somebody else, or in my mind thinking, you know, this is not authentic. I'm kind of acting like such and such a photographer, which does very similar work, and that's not a good way to go. So we're going to analyze this. Why is that happening, and how do we get around that? There are people, and some are photographers, believe it or not, that lack any sense of humility. Basically what I'm saying is there are people that think they know it all. And if you fall into this category, you probably don't if you're watching this, right? Because why would you be watching this if you thought you knew it already? You're talking about a slightly narcissistic mentality here, right? So, you know, we're not going to get into that. That's another complicated topic. But when you have people that have that mentality, like they pretty much know everything already, right? I tell a story about this guy, and I've told this before, that went to shoot a fashion shoot. He was hired and I was hired. And he took a group of the models and I took a group of the models. And at the end, I won't go into the details, but you know, he made fun of the equipment I had because he said I spent too much money. And at the end, I was talking to the lady that hired us both. We were having a cup of coffee when I went to hand over the job, you know, the card with a slab with all the pictures. Back then, putting things on the web, and it was a little more complicated. We're talking like 15 years ago, right? So I had to give her a card with the stuff already, you know, edited. And we sat down, had coffee, and I said, how did such and such's pictures turn out? And she said, we ended up using way more of your stuff than we expected to because basically his stuff was garbage. So we weren't able to use much of his stuff. It's that attitude that he knew it all and he didn't need to buy an expensive camera, or it wasn't even about expense. A camera that did what he needed it to do, right? He thought that he was bragging about the fact that he spent a fraction of what I spent, and he got a fraction of what I got, basically, right? So that's what it goes down to. When you know you need something, price is not the point. You have to buy what you need, right? Sometimes it costs less, sometimes it costs more. So my point is here, there are people like this. There are narcissistic narcissistic-minded people that walk around thinking they know everything. And you know, they're not going to feel this sense of inadequacy that maybe you and I feel sometimes when we look at a photographer and we wonder if we're good enough, right? They're never going to feel that. So this video is obviously not for them. Most people, like you and I, that strive to be better, that are constantly learning and comparing their work to others, are most likely to feel imposter syndrome, right? And it's not the narcissist-minded folks, right? So it's the rest of us, basically, right? Because we're doing a good job, we're trying to learn, and it always seems like somebody can do better than us, right? So that's where that starts to sink in and make us feel uncomfortable. People that fall in this category start asking themselves if their talent is unique, right? Is my talent unique? Is my artwork unique? Or am I just like copying the people I follow and the people I like, the people I admire? And then if you add to this personal battles with self-esteem, now you see where imposter syndrome is something that's never going to go away for some people, because as long as that's there, I think it feeds imposter syndrome, right? So let's start attacking these things one by one and breaking them down. So now that we know what causes it, right, we're going to start picking away at it. What will keep us from feeling like imposters? Well, we're going to start with the one we just talked about, self-esteem. I'm not a psychologist, so I'm not going to give you any prescribed homework assignments or anything like that. But I will say, start with books, free videos, YouTube, for example, right? Look up videos on self-esteem, handling self-esteem, managing self-esteem, overcoming self-esteem. These are the little trick things you can look up. You can go on ChatGPT and say, how do I deal, what's the best way to deal with self-esteem issues, right? Low self-esteem issues. And don't forget to stick the word low in there, because this is what causes it, not high self-esteem, right? So back to the other videos and the books, make sure you're looking for things that, battling low self-esteem, overcoming low self-esteem, right? That's the first way. If you're open-minded and you're that kind of person that likes to change for the better, and you're willing to put that foot in front and say, we're going to start today, that's probably going to be all you need. If that's not enough, if you know maybe already that that's not going to be enough, or you tried a couple of books and videos and it's not enough, you may have to go the second route, which is fine, right? See if you can find a self-esteem coach or therapist in the area, right? Or maybe somebody even virtual that's known for that. Look them up, and you know what? Some people think about coaches like that, self-esteem coaches and psychologists. Many of these people have a psychology degree. Like, I must be a Looney Tune if I go to a psychologist, so I'm going to avoid going to one. Don't think that way, because really all you're doing is closing a door. If you know that books and videos and stuff like that isn't helping, the best thing to do is just talk to a coach. You may only need a couple of 1-hour sessions, and the coach is going to guide you, right? Help you find out maybe what is causing the self-esteem issues, and then helping you overcome them very quickly, right? And then you can apply that to anything, not just to photography. There's a famous quote, and I can't remember who said it, something to the effect of, we're all intelligent, just in different areas, right? So you see somebody who's struggling in math and you go, what an idiot. Well, he or she can be brilliant at painting, at mechanical things, fixing mechanical things, right? They can be geniuses in other areas, and people give them a hard time because they don't know one thing, right? Everybody is intelligent, just in different areas. And the same thing applies here, right? We're all good in different areas. And even in photography, we're good in different areas of photography. But that's not even where I'm going. I'm going along the self-esteem lines. We all have self-esteem issues, just in different areas. Didn't expect that one, right? That's the case. Just like we're all intelligent in different areas, we all have self-esteem issues in different areas. I might be confident in my 9 to 5, or I may be confident in photography with a camera in my hand because I've been doing it so long. I feel like I have a good stance to take on certain topics, but throw me into sports, I have no clue. I'm going to feel insufficient, right? And I'm not going to know how to keep up with that topic, with the conversation. Definitely going to feel some self-esteem, low self-esteem issues, right? Throw me into a lot of the politics conversations, maybe of other countries. I don't dominate that topic. Throw me into many different things, and I'm going to feel insufficient, right? So we all have self-esteem issues, just in different areas, right? So if you're feeling it in photography, ask yourself, why do I feel insufficient in photography, but I don't feel this way in other areas? Now, if you're feeling it across the board, you might just have a low self-esteem problem, right? And this is where the therapist, the books, the videos come in. But learn to distinguish. If you just have a low self-esteem issue with photography, and you really consider yourself a great runner or great bike rider or great mathematician or whatever, right? Now you have to sit down and say, why do I feel this way about photography? That's going to be maybe a little harder to crack at first, but once you do, that's it. You got the answer. It's going to be trivial for you to work on because, I know why. Because Uncle Bob was an amazing photographer, and the entire family bragged about Uncle Bob's work. And we all went to see Uncle Bob's museum, display of his photography. And I always felt like I was never good enough. So I always hid my work and I never showed it to my family because I was afraid they were going to compare me to Uncle Bob. You see where I'm going, right? Where I'm going with this. I just discovered Uncle Bob was the reason that I became, what's the word? I felt like I didn't have good self-esteem in photography, right? This imposter, right? Imposter syndrome. So it's not Uncle Bob's fault. He's a great photographer. Good for him. It's my fault for shying away, thinking that people were going to criticize me or not think I was enough, right? So, bam, I discovered it. Now what am I going to do? I'm going to bring my work out and I'm going to start showing my family, listening to either the criticism or the praise, because I'm sure more than one person's going to go, oh my God, this is so beautiful. It reminds me of Uncle Bob's work, right? And that's what you want to hear, I'm sure. But you get the point, right? Is your self-esteem overall broad? That might be a personality thing you have to work on. Or is it just in the field of photography? Is it just in your relationship? Is it just at work? Those are little things you can tackle and you can solve easier. Which takes us back to what I just mentioned. Self-esteem issues won't just affect our photography, if that's what it's hurting. If it's specific to photography or if it's general, either way. Well, specifically if it's general. If we have low self-esteem issues, it doesn't just affect photography. It's gonna affect your job, your other friendships, your hobbies, anything you decide to do. And be careful, because it will affect your relationship as well. Okay, so we got past self-esteem. We know the two types: very focused self-esteem, just in photography, low self-esteem issues, or general low self-esteem, right? Applying to everything in life, which, I need to address. Let's say I'm working on it, so I'm not concerned, right? But I still feel inadequacy. Or let's say I even addressed it. I've been working on my low self-esteem for a year. I feel great about my photography now. In the low self-esteem area, right? I don't have that, but I'm still feeling like something is not right with my photography, comparing it to other people, right? I don't feel it's a low self-esteem anymore. I feel great in many areas when I take the work and look at it, but then I compare it to other people and I still don't feel right. What's going on there? Now we're going to talk about something else. And it's the effect that social media and just the web has in general on our life, right? 50 years ago, this second thing we're going to talk about now probably wouldn't have been an issue, because you had to buy a book to look at pictures, right? Or you saw a couple of pictures in a magazine and that was it. You went to the library and you saw some books. Let me give you some numbers, right? 750 billion photographs are estimated to be on the World Wide Web. And that's approximately 6% of all the photos, since we only share a very little portion of what we take. 750 billion pictures is a lot of pictures, nonetheless. And when we're looking through all that stuff, it's easy to understand why people feel inadequate and insufficient, because there's so much beautiful stuff and bad stuff, but we're focusing on the beautiful stuff to compare to, right? And add to that the fact that there's artificial intelligence, AI, duping up pictures, taking, congestion away from pictures, enhancing the colors, taking garbage out of the streets away from the picture. It does so much, right? It makes people prettier. So no wonder people look at photography now and feel like they don't stand a chance. This second part has nothing to do with low self-esteem anymore. It's more along the lines of letting ourselves get absorbed by the internet, right? And just focusing so much on all the stuff that we're looking at that we stop seeing the beauty in the work that we do ourselves. Even the most confident and experienced photographer may find themselves questioning their authenticity in a world like this, where there are 750 billion pictures, and this number's growing every day. Say I go to Yosemite Park and I take a picture, right? We've talked about this on the channel before. Our pictures are unique. I take a picture and it looks a certain way. And then I go find a photographer that took one and it's a different picture, and I go, oh, I like theirs better. Well, it was a different day, it was a different hour, it was different weather, it was a different season, right? There may have been flowers, or the leaves are changing, or there's snow. So many different things are happening, right? The angle is different, the lens is different, the settings are different on the camera's different. Oh my God, I could just go on and on, right? It's never, ever going to be the same picture, right? Now let's give it a little twist. Say Ansel Adams were still around, shooting black and white film, right? And he puts his camera up, and he goes to Yosemite, he puts his camera up, and shoots a landscape. And I'm right behind Ansel Adams, so I'm not even next to him. So my angle is going to be the same. And after he takes this picture, he snaps it, he picks up the tripod and steps away and says, bye-bye, have a nice day. And I go, bye, Ansel. Wouldn't that be nice? Bye, Mr. Adams. The Adams family. Anyway, I digress. So I put my camera down right in the same spot, the same 3 holes of his tripod. Bam! And I have the camera at the same height, and I have the same camera Mr. Ansel Adams had, because I follow him and I love to buy what he buys and blah, blah, blah. And I take the same picture with the same settings. Is it the same picture? Same camera? Same film? Same? No, it's not. It's not for a couple of reasons. First of all, it's not the same film. It's not the same sensor. If it's digital, it's not the same sensor. The bird that was on a tree is no longer on the tree, even though you can't see it. So technically, philosophically speaking, it's not the same picture, right? Any deviance of that picture, a millimeter in height difference of the tripod because my camera sunk in a little lower into the ground, makes it a different picture, right? You see? It'll never, ever be the same picture, even with that scenario. And I say this because many times we say, oh, you know, I follow such and such, and I feel like really what I'm doing now is just taking the pictures they're taking, right? I'm going to the sites they go to because they're beautiful, and I'm setting, you know, camera in the region where they're setting up, and I take the picture, and it seems like the picture's never as pretty as theirs. Oh, it's never going to be. You know why? Because when they shot it in the snow, and you shot it in the summer. And even though yours is more colorful and beautiful, you're looking at the snow from their picture. And you're going, oh, my picture just doesn't look like that. Of course it doesn't. You need to go there in the winter, right? And oh, you go there in the winter and it's cloudy, and he had a sunny day in the winter. Oh, another different picture. So we fall into the trap of not liking our work simply because it's different from other work, not because it's inferior. Very, very, very important thing to remember. When you look at somebody's work and you look at your work and it's of the same area, Yosemite, Yellowstone, whatever, wherever you go, New York, ask yourself, am I unhappy with my picture because my picture sucks? Or am I unhappy with my picture because it's simply different from the other? Right? If you're unhappy with your picture because it's different from the other, then that's just a quick little mindset shift that you have to make, right? All you have to do is realize that you're doing that and say, that's it. After today, I no longer beat myself up because my pictures are different. Now, if you're hating yourself because your pictures actually look crappy, then you got some work to do, right? And we all do that, right? We all have to grow in fields, whether it's architecture, painting, photography, engineering. So maybe you just need to practice a little more. That's perfectly okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Just don't beat yourself up. Just say, okay, my pictures suck. You know, I'm not even going to compare it to, you know, another photographer because my pictures, technically, I'm not there yet. Okay, so for the next year, I'm going to work on picking up technically my skill, right? And maybe, you know, tuning my composition eye and learning all the composition rules and following them a little bit and then breaking them, seeing what I get. Now that we understand a little more, we got the part about feeling inferior, right? Inferiority complex, and now this thing where the world is just inundated with photography and we feel like we're copying because what are we going to do that's new, right? How do we avoid feeling like an imposter now that we know this? First, we need to realize and remember that not only are we unique, every picture that we take is unique for the reason I just explained previously. First is the fact that no two pictures will ever, ever, ever be identical, just because the mere fact that we're using different rolls of film and different sensors. But the fact that I took the picture will make it different from the fact that you took the picture. Even if we're in the same place, even if you use my camera and take the picture, it's different because I pressed the button. Philosophically, it's different. It'll never be the same. Your image is truly as unique as you are, because it was taken by you and only you. But if all of this makes sense but still doesn't convince you, or after a year you're going, oh my God, I still have, what's wrong with me? I still feel like an imposter. Well, maybe these things will help. I wrote a couple down. For one, don't visit the same locations that everybody else is visiting. Be unique. Go outside of your town, go into your own little city, go into different parts of the city that nobody, goes to. Be a little different that way. So when you look at your pictures, they're going to offer something that the other pictures don't. Don't use the same gear. If there's a photographer you like for example, I gave the Ansel Adams example. He used like 8x10 negatives. I won't use a large format film camera. Maybe I'll use a medium format film camera. Maybe like a 4x5 or a 6x7, or now I can use digital, right? So many things I can do differently. I don't have to use the type of lenses that he used. I don't have to use the type of depth of field he used. I can play with depth of field. I can play with all kinds of things. I can play with film simulations in the cameras now. I can play with, oh my gosh, it goes on and on and on. So use different settings as well, right? They shoot black and white, shoot color. The person you admire shoots color, shoot black and white. The reason you're doing it is to break away from somebody you admire and follow so that you don't feel like you're mimicking them. And then once you've done that for a little while and you appreciate your work again, then you can go back to doing what everybody else is doing, because you'll already start appreciating what you do more, and you'll start finding what you like about your photography. And then no matter what other people are doing, you're hooked on your photography by that time, right? So you start by breaking yourself away, doing different things, and then when you come back to what everybody else is doing, which is fine, now you can really, really have an eye for what you do, an eye of appreciation. And the last one, last but not least, edit them differently, right? I edit my pictures a certain way, you edit your pictures a certain way. If you feel like you're editing your pictures like somebody you follow and it's looking too close, get away from that for a while, just to be different, right? To show yourself that you can do other things. And then don't pay attention to other people for a while. Start editing the way you like. And then when you start following people again, you're going to see that your style is unique. It has become unique over a period of time. And now it's not so much similar to everybody else's, right? So these are little things you can do, exercises. And that's basically it. This camera's running low on battery. I don't want it to cut me off, and this video has already gone way too long. Just remember, at the end of the day, imposter syndrome is mostly here. It's nowhere else. It's not outside of us, it's inside. And like everything else in life, 50% of the battle is overcome by admitting that we have an imposter syndrome issue, that we think we are less than everybody else. At the end of the day, my work is unique, and I have no need to feel like I'm copying anybody else. And I hope you see that too, and I hope you start feeling that. And you know what? Like I said earlier, if we're copying someone so we can get better, so we can learn to make our pictures look like theirs, and then we can break away once we learn that style and we can do other things with it, there's nothing wrong. Do that for a little while, perfect your photography, make it yours, and then you can start learning another photographer's style. Mimic them for a while, and then mimic this black and white photographer for a while. And then when you break away from all of them, now you're going to have your own editing, because you're going to like some things from this one, some things from that one, some things from the third, some things from the fourth, and that's how you develop your own style. So don't ever shame yourself for mimicking other people. We do it to learn. That is all I have for today. In summary, just remember, it's all inside. It's not outside. So figure out, do you have a general low self-esteem issue, or is it just a self-esteem issue in photography? Pick it out. Talk to somebody if you need to. Overcome that first. Second, are you overwhelmed with the amount of pictures on the internet? Make sure you understand that, right? That it's okay to look at other work, but your work is still beautiful and it's still different. And then lastly, it's okay to copy whoever you want, because you're learning. And you're learning and you're learning and you're picking up different techniques. And once you learn them, you develop your own. So, that's it. We've reached the end. I hope that this was informative, enjoyable. Please like, subscribe, comment, let me know what you think. That means a lot to me. I love reading your comments. And buy me a coffee if you can. That's how I rent equipment to do reviews. And that was it. I hope you have a remaining wonderful day. A wonderful remaining day. Whatever. Enjoy yourselves. Be safe. Be happy. Drink lots of water. And I will see you in the next video. Ciao for now. From the bottom of my heart, see you soon.